Analytics is going to become as ubiquitous in a company as simple accounting is. We've gone from a state of information scarcity to information surplus.
Ken, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Bruno.
Earlier last year, The Economist published this report here that you authored. It was called the Data Deluge, and I was very excited about it because I think it was one of the first times that I saw such a major publication talk about this issue of data. In it, you talk about this idea of data not being that available before, now being available to everyone. Do you want to expand on that and the consequences of that?
Yeah, certainly. Through most of history, we have been information constrained, and we've set up our institutions, our society, from academia to business to human relationships, based on the presumption of information scarcity. We never had enough information. But something's happened that has changed that. Now the operative constraint in the world is we have too much information, and the difficulty is making sense of it. We've gone from a state of information scarcity to information surplus, or surfeit, and that is now the central challenge. So what we're seeing is, for example, companies like Google. It's not about trying to find the information, it's trying to find the relevant information. A Google search or a Bing search will result in millions of pages on the topic being brought to you, but you don't have the human attention span for that, so you only look at the first few. And as we refine that even more, is going to be what's critical in business and society.
And so help us out here. How does an organization figure out what's relevant to an individual? Is there tactics they use? Is there trends in the market that helps them think through that problem better?
Well, we're figuring that out now. On one hand, we have very good analytical tools to work and try to find things that are relevant, try to find gems hidden inside the data. What we're finding is that when we want to do new things and try to extract value from that data, that it's not just simply a question of using smart algorithms as we did in the past and good statistical models, but what we want is more data, because more data will give us more information. So for example, it's very customary, you might have a database with 300 million records of names, and you'll add another database with 50 million records of names, and it won't create a database of 350 or 320. It'll actually collapse the database to 200, because you'll see that a lot of overlapping things that you had, now that you have another identifier, are actually the same person, and so your database becomes better and more accurate with more data in it. And that is a conceptual shift, and that sort of big change is happening in lots of domains, not just this one example.
So we're going through the evolution of not having access to information to a point where you have almost too much information, and the problem being relevant, the ability to cross-reference, I guess, data coming from multiple places. You talk about Visa, you talk about Walmart in your report. So as you think about the evolution of culture around analytics, what are some of the cool examples that our audience should be paying attention to?
Well, one of the most interesting I like is a company called Faircast. It was acquired by Bing, so it's a Microsoft property now. It's created by a computer scientist at the University of Washington. And what it does is it takes all of the travel records in American civil aviation and looks at flight departures and flight prices and for all the routes. And what it does is it codes a predictor of whether the price that you're seeing at any time that you're going to purchase is likely to go up or to go down or to stay the same, and therefore it gives you an indication whether you should buy the price or whether you should wait for a better price. This is an example of a value or of a business model that simply could not have existed in the past. There was no way of getting the tens of millions of records at every moment, at any moment in time, with which to make these sort of predictions and also to score the probability of the prediction, the degree of confidence that you have in it. This is a perfect example of a big data business that was created just by applying a lot of computing power and a really important conceptual shift about the value of data and new business opportunities that can be created, and then mining it very well. And we're going to see this, again, everywhere. Today it's going to be flight data in which there's high variability and a high cost to it, but it could be used cars, it could be homes, it could be, basically the mind boggles at the unlimited nature of how you could apply the same sort of metric onto a variety of different products.
And that's what's great about this example is you think about it as a consumer example that you can use today on Bing Travel yourself. I think it teaches us lessons on how people can think about analytics inside the organization. So when you think about that specific problem, what executive should be paying attention to analytics?
Well, all executives. It's sort of like asking the question, maybe at the turn of the century, of the 20th century, well, what executives should really be paying attention to accounting principles and accounting practices? Or the great leap in American management in the 1950s under McNamara and others in applying metrics in general and performance metrics in general to all aspects of business. Today there's just not a business executive who can't read or do their own P&L, right? Who can't actually think about the business in a numeric way. But of course, at the turn of the century, of the 20th century, men used to dictate to women who were, the typists and the secretaries, their interoffice memos, and there was a view that, they did one thing of management, dictating orders, and not something else. Analytics is going to become as ubiquitous in a company as simple accounting is today, or the typewriter is today. So or the typewriter, computer. To give you an example, there are 18,000 employees at eBay. 6,000 of them, so 1/3 of the company, works with analytics. Now, to be sure, not all of them are high-powered users. Many of them are just the call center operators who see analytics come to their desktop when a call comes in. But it is to say that it infuses the entire organization. And as goes an internet company like eBay, so goes the rest of us eventually.
So you're talking here about the opportunity executives have to use analytics as the operating system, really, for their organization.
Well, on one hand, it's an opportunity, without a doubt. It's also it's a mandatory requirement that if you don't do it, you're going to be, you're out of luck. You're going to be out of a job. You're going to not get promotions. The whole basis of your company is going to be from an analytical, statistical, data-driven model. If you don't know this information, you're not going to be valuable to your company anymore.
So that's a great message for our audience. Now, Ken, I know you like to hear feedback from our audience on what their story with data is. Where can they get access to you, or should they send you an email?
Thank you, Bruno. Yeah, absolutely. I love to hear about the data stories of companies, and so if any executives want to reach me, they can reach me by email, kennethcukier@economist.com.
Ken, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruno.
Until next time, I'm Bruno Zito.